Hello everyone. We are here. I'm here to explain to you the the topic on week 5 entitled Law and Conscience. So this is the last topic that we are going to include in our examination for prelim. So let's start with understanding the law. Okay. So why do we need to include the topic on law in our study of ethics? The law here is The relevance of law here is that it is a guide and measure of human actions. We know that a law is a precept and it serves as a guide whether an action is good depends on whether it conforms or abides by the relevant laws. So we should recall in our earlier discussions about human person that a human action is good or bad depending on whether it conforms to reason. So reason is the measure by which we evaluate human acts. The laws that govern human actions are expressive of reason itself. So why do we need to follow the law? One of St. Thomas' answer to this question is that he followed the thinking of Aristotle that an act is good or bad depending on whether it contributes to or deter us from our proper human end. So what is our proper human end? It is called in Greek telos, or what we call eudaimonia. In English it is called happiness. So happiness here is understood as completion, perfection, or well-being. So when we speak of perfection, meaning our human as we are, that we become fully and more human, then we also understand our completeness as a human being. So achieving happiness requires a range of intellectual and moral virtues that enables us to understand the nature of happiness and motivates us to seek it in a reliable and consistent way. So in short, following the law until it becomes a virtue makes us happy. So this is the relevance of the law. So what is a law? So there are three important elements in the definition of a law. First is that a law is an ordinance of reason. Okay, so it is based on what is reasonable. Then it is promulgated by competent authority. So there are those who have the capacity. It is dili lang bisan kinsa ang pwede mo buhat og balaod. Dapat they are really competent. And one of them is God alone. God is our ultimate lawgiver. Then since we are made according to His image and likeness, we are given this power to also, because of our intellect, we are able to also make laws. And then what is the purpose of the law? It is for the common good. So when we speak of common good, that includes material prosperity, law and order. This is for the good. Okay, so this is law in general. Now, what are the kinds of laws? There are 4 kinds of laws, namely eternal law, divine law, natural law, and then human law. So when we speak of eternal law, it is identical to the mind of God. Okay, so God as the ultimate lawgiver. Okay, now we also have divine law. So divine law is actually refers to those laws that appears to human being as divine commands. So for example of this is in the Old Testament we have the Ten Commandments. So these are example of divine law, a law that comes from God. In the New Testament, we have the teachings of Jesus Christ. It is a divine law. Okay, the law of love. Okay, now the natural law is the participation in the eternal law by human beings. Okay, so when we speak of natural law, it is the theory. One of the theories in ethics is following this so-called natural law, and it is defined by Saint Thomas as I have said, a participation in the internal law by human beings. Okay, so these are actually our natural inclinations. Okay, so when we speak of natural inclinations, our reason has the capacity to perceive what is good for human beings by following the order of our natural inclinations. So natural law is a natural inclinations. So these natural inclinations are self-preservation. So we have family life, bringing up of offspring, and the goals of knowing God and living in the society. So they are uh, an application of the basic principle, that is what is good to be done and evil to be avoided. So the specific example of this natural law is that the preservation of human life. So life is sacred. According to natural law, we have to preserve human life. That's why we have laws in the society that preserves or protects human lives. Okay, then the last kind of law is what we call human law. So these laws are enacted and enforced in human society. So in particular, who enact these laws? These are laws made by the people. In the one is example of human law are the state law or the legal or civil laws. No? These laws are human, also called human positive law, enacted by the state through its legislation, but legislative body or legislator for the temporal common good. Okay, so kana itong mga balaod sa estado. We also have church law. So I will not anymore include in the I did not anymore include this to in our PowerPoint presentation, because you can read them in your simplified course pack. So the second kind of law in human positive law is what we call church law. These laws refer to the law enacted by the church through its ecclesial governing authority that is ultimately geared towards the final end of man, which is God. So human laws are those laws that are enacted by the state and those laws that are enacted by the church. In conclusion, the natural law is promulgated by God. God has instilled it into human minds so as to be known by them naturally. That while the divine and the human laws can be promulgated by word of mouth, or even better by writing. And then the eternal law is, of course, God Himself. Okay, so now let's continue. This time, let us talk about conscience. What is conscience? Conscience is a practical judgment of reason on the goodness and evil of an act. Okay, so here I have trying to look for a source that will really give us a bird's eye view of the idea of what this conscience in terms of its origin, in terms of authority, and in cases of disobedience. When we speak of conscience, there are a lot of questions as to who has really the authority, or